Well, welcome back, guitar noobs. I'm just kidding. That's a inside joke from this one other video. Anyway, don't worry about it. But seriously though, yeah, welcome back to another guitar lesson. This one's going to be all about vibrato and bending. They're pretty related, so I just wanted to make a video for like both techniques. And as you can see, I wanted to make a video with the Strat for once, just for something different. Anyway, as always though, if you haven't checked out my website, it's redishshredder.com. Be sure to check it out. You got tabs and text and other stuff that will go along with these lessons. If you haven't checked out my previous lessons, be sure to check those out. Check out my disclaimer. And as always, it tuned down to D, but I'll still refer to everything as if I was in standard tuning. So if you want to play along. Having a good vibrato, you know, is really going to differentiate you between just an average guitar player and a really good one. So you got to definitely learn this technique down. I prefer like a really heavy, kind of wide vibrato used by a lot of guitar players. I really like Yngwie Malmsteen, Zakk Wylde, Dimebag Darrell, rest in peace, buddy. So anyway, this one is going to be like a really wild, kind of outrageous vibrato. You basically just do it by keeping your fingers stiff and just kind of twisting your arm like this. That's pretty much the main movement, is just twisting your forearm. And of course you probably want to use more than one finger just to get a little more strength in there. So let's just, you know, just show you. You can just check out my technique. So you can see, like, I'll do this one with 3 fingers. And as you can see, I'm pretty much keeping my fingers stiff, kind of like at an angle like this way, and I'm just twisting my forearm, if you can see that, and you know, keeping the, you know, turn the wrist a little bit too. And of course, you know, you can't always use 3 fingers or 2 fingers. Sometimes you got to use just one. If that's the case, you know, you can put a little bit of knuckle action in there, but see, doing vibrato this way with just your fingers is going to give you a lot less power and control than if you were to use your entire arm. So, you know, if you have to, you can do just one finger. And as you can see there, I do mostly forearm anyway. The main thing, you know, you want to focus on when you're doing vibrato is you want to go up and down the fretboard. You want to move the string up and down, and that'll give you the best sound. I see a lot of guys try to do vibrato this way, just sideways like this. And I really strongly suggest you not to do that, because it's just going to make your strings sound kind of shaky. It's not really going to give you a good sound. You probably would want to do that on a different instrument, like on a violin or something. The reason that that type of vibrato doesn't really work too well on a guitar is because you've got frets. So if you use a fretless instrument like a violin, that'll probably work better. But anyway, that's the basic thing. Go up and down this way, and you know, it's this twisting movement in your arm, if you can see that. So anyway, another thing you want to do when you're playing vibrato is make sure to stay on key, because if you go too wide, you can go out of key. So I'll just show you a quick example of that. Let's say you're playing an A, key of A. You know, that sounds fine, but if you were to do something like this, like, you know, it might sound a little bit too wild, you know. So you want to make sure you got that in your ear there. And yeah, so that's pretty much the main thing with vibrato. You should also experiment with the speed of your vibrato, and just to experiment with the phrasing a little bit. Like, you can always do stuff like this, you know, kind of a steady vibrato, or you can do a slow one. You know, slow it down, speed it up. Okay, so bending is pretty much the same thing as vibrato, but instead of like doing it rapidly, you're just going to bend and hold it. It's pretty much the same technique, though. You pretty much want to do the same thing where you keep your fingers stiff. Probably want to avoid doing this type of stuff as much as possible, and go mostly with like a full arm movement, like the whole thing I talked about, where you twist your arm there. So the main thing with bending, the thing I notice a lot with a lot of beginners, is that there's usually 2 problems. It's either one, you don't have the ear training to know when to bend up to a correct note and you go out of key, or a lot of beginners know, you know, maybe they don't have the finger strength to bend up to the note they want to go to, or a combination of both. So, you know, for the finger strength, I can't really help it there unless you just practice a lot, but I can tell you about the ear training part of it. So for example, let's say we're playing in the key of A minor, and we just want to bend Let's do a whole step bend first. We probably want to just figure out, let's do these whole step bends and half step bends. Those are probably the two easiest. So we can just start out with the whole step bend. We'll just bend from a G to an A. So I always like to play the note first without any bending so I know what it should sound like. So here's a G and then an A note. And so that's what it should sound like. So when you're bending it, right there you're not far enough. That's too far. So we want it to sound like this once again. So let's just do it. So right there is where we got that A note. And of course you always want to do it on different strings, so let's just do an octave higher on a different string. So let's just play it without bending first. And then with the bend. And once again, you just gotta, try doing that. Play it without bending first, and then play it with bending to see if you're hitting the same notes correctly. And you just gotta use your ear for that one. We can do other whole step bends too in the key of A minor. Let's just do a bend from D to E. So once again, without bending, and then with bending, and then on a different string too. And yeah, so that's it for the whole step bends. Pretty simple. Same idea for half step bends. It's just this time you gotta, obviously do half step instead of a whole step. So this time let's do a bend from, let's say a B to a C note. So without bending, and then with, and then on the different string. Actually, you can do it here. And then with bending. And yeah, you can add some vibrato there. I've been adding some vibrato just because it's kind of like how I like to play. But anyway, we can also do another half step bend. Let's just bend from E to F. So here it is, without bending once again. And then with. And in a different position. So the main thing is just use your ear training to know when to go, how far to go up. So for all of these bends, you always want to bend the string in a certain direction. I like to bend the top 4 strings down, then the highest 2 strings up, but you can do whatever works for you. Just watch out for the edges of the fretboard. But I've got one more bend to show you. Now that you've mastered whole step and half step bends, we can do a 1.5 step bend. So we'll just stay in the key of A minor. And this time we'll bend from an E note all the way up to a G. So let's do that. And this is the note we want to hit. So it's a pretty big bend, so you gotta use a couple fingers. So you can see, you can just hear that, we're going from here to there. Kind of a hard one there, because it's a big bend. As I mentioned earlier, you can experiment with adding bends and vibrato at the same time to, have some different effects. So you can bend and vibrate. And like I said earlier, you can change your phrasing around and stuff like that. Another tool you can use to have a really interesting effect is what's called a prebend. That's when you just bend a string and then release it. It's kind of a tricky effect because you got to mute the strings with your left hand, or you can even mute the string with your pick and then bend it, and then pluck it and play it and go down. So I'll just show you a couple of quick examples. I'll use my hand first to mute first. So you just mute, bend, and then play it. And then you can do that with your pick too. It's a little bit harder. So I'll do this time with my pick. A little bit messier for that one. Alright you guys, well thanks for watching my bends and vibrato lesson. Remember, it's just all in the wrist, and use your ear training so that you know how far to go up, and make sure to stay in key. That's the main thing. So twisting, stay in key. Alright guys, well thanks for watching.